organization is the National Association of Secretaries of State. It is a group that gets together the oldest group of elected officials in the country, and we collaborate with each other. We share ideas, we inspire each other, we motivate each other, we gig each other. We do a lot of great information sharing and idea spreading.
What kind of results have you seen from all of the work that has occurred here at this conference?
Fantastic results. We just have awarded the 4 Outstanding Ideas Project and the winner of that competition. These are in areas of voter registration overseas. These are business analytics, heritage projects, and technology upgrades for government and people in the state of Washington. So a wide variety of things, and all 4 of them, each and every one of us could have a takeaway to go home for our own state.
The National Association of Secretaries of State, the oldest nonpartisan elected official organization in the country, some 114 years old.
What I see is the opportunity to share best practices, to see what's going on in the field of elections, business processing, other matters that affect the work that we do. All of us, whether elected or appointed, have a deep desire and a commitment to serve our constituents, the public, in many different fields. And while we may have very good ideas of our own, being able to come to a forum that allows for a healthy exchange of suggestions, ideas, best practices, it has been immensely helpful to me and the work that I do in Pennsylvania.
One of the things that I've really actually learned about is some of the ideas that I had broad idea about where we wanted to go. I begin to get specifics about the great ideas that's going on. Talking to Secretary Schedler, one of the things that I learned about was what was called the Go Vote idea, and then I was actually talking to him about doing a business one-stop type portal, and I learned the specifics of what he's actually doing with Go Biz that has really got me excited. So we'll be modeling many of our programs off of innovations that Tom has already began to start motion on. So, that's one of the great things about this organization is we can actually share ideas and get inspiration from one another and then take that back home for the benefit of our own taxpayers in our own state. And Tom has been a real innovator in that.
NASS is an organization where you have people across the country with very different political cultures, very different constituents and different needs, and I think what's great is getting that chance to come together as an organization and talk to each other and find out what are the real challenges in their states and finding that commonality and how they overcame a problem. I've learned so much from my colleagues across the country, and I know that it is making our offices better.
The best thing about having the opportunity to participate with other secretaries from around the nation is having an opportunity to collaborate with them, talk about the different things that are going on in each and every one of their offices, sharing ideas and thoughts about the things that you're doing, and then taking the best of all of that back to your home.
In the 50 states and the territories, nobody does things exactly the same way. So, a lot of what happens in our home states are things that we've stolen from other states, whether it's website development, election reform, and some of the other things we do, like corporate formation, accountability among public officials. Some of secretaries of state have ethics commissions in their shops, some have museums, we have archives in Maine. So you learn about what other states are doing, and you also find people to network with when you have a question. How do you deal with this in your state? And it's not a cold call. You've developed a relationship with someone, sometimes with other deputies and other offices. Those relationships last for years, and you become tremendous resources for each other. So sometimes it's pure factual, topical information. Other times it's true policy development.
I love coming to NASS. NASS, number one, we learn about what other states are doing, what's going on in your counties, in your state, and that is so valuable for me to bring back input on things that have been tried, things that haven't been, suggestions, working through ideas. It's been invaluable.
Here at the National Association of Secretaries of States Conference in Maine, I've had a great opportunity to meet with Secretaries of States from all over the nation. I've been focusing principally on business services and how to make Wyoming's Secretary of State office more business friendly and service friendly. And so I've picked up ideas and ways to collaborate with other Secretaries of States in the technology to provide a faster, more efficient service in Wyoming.
The exchange of ideas you can't get anywhere else, and the fact that you've got 50 of the states with the best practices, best ideas that you get to share, you get to take them back and you can enhance them and do even more for your own state.
The best practices that you hear from other states. There's so much going on in the world of, particularly of elections, but also in business practices. And every conference I come to, I come back with ideas, and they've been great. We've implemented many of them.
We all have different missions in our states, but it allows us to come together to exchange best practices, to exchange new ideas, new programs, things like Safe at Home, which is a confidentiality program for domestic violence and stalking victims, has really swept the country, and it started with this organization maybe about 15 years ago. So it's something that I think we all get a lot of value out of, and being able to talk with our colleagues on both sides of the aisle. It's a nonpartisan group here, and that's, I think, the beauty of the organization as we move forward.
There are so many opportunities to interact and to exchange ideas. What we've done in West Virginia, the initiatives that we have started and been successful in implementing, and then at the same time learning about what other states are doing as well, and how they are sharing data, how they're making more efficient for their citizens in each of their state. And those are some of the ideas that I gain, and I always look forward to coming to these conferences, because this is where a lot of interaction takes place, and this is where we exchange ideas and then are able to implement them in our states and really build off successes that we each have.
We're working very, very hard to make sure that voter participation is at an all-time high in Alabama. The reason that we feel it's so important is because if you don't exercise your right to vote, your voice won't be heard. And if your voice is not heard, you can't make a positive change. We want to encourage everybody to participate at the highest level possible.
We're working with the other national secretaries of state to discuss voting issues. This year, Mississippi is rewriting our entire voting laws. First time since 1890. We've got a lot of issues we're going to be addressing, and almost all of them are addressed by other secretaries of state. It's a great sharing thing, and they've been very interested in our Promote the Vote, which we just discussed now, and also about voter ID, which we were able to get passed with not any litigation at all. So a lot of my secretaries of state have been quizzing me about how we did that, and I'm pleased to share it with them. And they also give us a lot of great ideas about electronic usage of machines in the polling place, things like that.
Our goal has always been in Ohio to make it easy to vote and hard to cheat. And we've done a good job of expanding early voting opportunities in our state. But there was one group of people who really were having difficulty voting when I came to office, and that was the men and women of our military. I remember talking to a lady whose sons in the 2008 presidential campaign were serving in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they did not get their ballots in time to vote. And that's a tragedy, and we didn't want to see any of those kinds of things happen. So we started our Military Ready to Vote program to make sure that every member of our military got registered before they were deployed. We made it easy for them to receive their ballots electronically and track those ballots all the way back to the polling, or to the local county board of elections, to ensure that both their ballot was received and counted. And that has really helped to improve people's confidence in the military about our system of elections in Ohio. Ohio was named one of 6 states to receive all-star status for the way we treat military voters. And as evidence of this, we've delivered ballots to Ohioans serving in the military in 48 states, 73 countries, and 7 naval vessels. And we're proud of what we do to make it easy for the members of our military to cast ballots.
What kind of response have you had from the military and their families?
Well, we included all the service branches on the ground floor. I actually hired a young man who had served 2 tours in Iraq to run our Military Ready to Vote program. So the service members have been great partners, and the great thing about it is that the families feel so much better about the way we treat their sons and daughters.
I think really the focus needs to be on voter outreach, providing information so people know how to register, how to update, and what they need to do to get their ballot counted on Election Day in whatever state they live in. And I think it's just constant engagement with your voters. In Washington State, we're a vote-by-mail state, so it's a little different learning curve than all these poll site states across the country. But we have good citizen engagement, but it can always be better, and it's important.
One of the things about it is as the number of voters are decreases, we become more and more like an oligarchy where few people are actually deciding our rules and laws. So the more that we can actually increase more people to participate in the process, the more it actually becomes a situation to where we're moving toward a true democratic republic like what we have.
In Connecticut, we have found that we need to create standards and accountability among all our hundreds of election officials. In Connecticut, we have registrars and clerks. They're all responsible. We are now creating a mandatory training and certification project, and all of our election officials will be certified and trained in the same systems and ways so that they will all know the law equally well.
Engagement. We have to be able to engage people and make them understand that what they do in the polling place actually matters, that every vote truly does count. The speakers that we've had at this particular conference, including former United States Senator George Mitchell and retired Staff Sergeant Travis Mills, one of the 5 quadruple amputees to survive their injuries, balance out the message that it's not just the ivory tower, the ideals of government, it's what really happens to people and how the decisions that we make as a self-governing country really do matter to our future.
I think we need to start educating earlier. We need to make sure that everybody understands the importance that not only is it a responsibility, but it's a privilege to be able to vote in this country.
Voter participation in Wyoming is a big concern for me, and during the last election cycle, 2014, we had a very poor voter turnout, especially in the younger demographic, 18 to 24 years of age. And in analyzing that demographic and the why is there such a poor turn of vote out at that demographic, I've learned here at the National Association of Secretaries of States meeting that it is a lot about technology and about the devices that the younger generation uses in reaching out and in executing their participation in the process. And so, I want to take what I've learned here back to Wyoming and see if we can't work on a meaningful way to increase voter turnout, especially among our youth.
Obviously, voter participation is so important. The election and the election process are the foundation of our democracy, and the way that we hear what people want is by their vote. Their voice is their vote. And so, there are many different ways that you can help to increase participation, and one that we've done is certainly to recognize the service of our military members, and at the same time say to the voters, respect that, because in West Virginia, we have a high number of participants per capita, one of the highest in the country of those who serve in the military. So we're all touched by the military, and many of us are military families. And we ask folks to go and vote in honor of a veteran, whether it's a grandparent, a parent, a husband, and father in my case. And we have that to help to increase voter participation and let folks see the importance of not just getting registered to vote, but getting out and indeed voting.
Well, I think applicable to the Latino community, but many others, is first is a sense that it's a process that we understand, and it's a process that we might be familiar with. And what I mean by that is, if you have someone like myself who came from Puerto Rico, a place where we vote at a rate of 80-90%, we have election day is a holiday, and the candidates are super engaged, and they're talking specifically to the issues that affect us as Latinos. Sometimes when you come to the States, you don't understand necessarily the process. The candidates may not be necessarily knocking on your door. You don't have the big caravanas, and sometimes you don't hear the candidates speaking to your issues. So So that's there. And also is sometimes it's just fear of the process, not understanding it well enough. So I think that the more voter education that we can do, explaining the process of registration, that is easy, that the vote for the most part I like to think is secret, and that you can do so in a way that preserves your voice is immensely important. So we have to continue to communicate the value of voting, that most fundamental right of citizenship. And I think once we do that and the candidates engage the electorate, things improve. Muchas ocasiones el problema que nosotros tenemos en términos de la participación electoral es que los latinos quizás no entendemos el proceso electoral. En nuestros países latinoamericanos, los candidatos, las elecciones toman una vida de mucha participación entre los candidatos, te tocan en la puerta, hacen caravanas, a veces el día de elección es un día feriado donde las personas no trabajan pero van a votar, que no es lo mismo que sucede en los Estados Unidos. Son muchas veces un proceso de aprender y entender las elecciones en los Estados Unidos, así que es muy importante para nosotros los oficiales electorales que nosotros participemos en ese proceso de educación y de información para que nuestra comunidad latina se sienta más a gusto y esté más cómoda con el proceso electoral. Así que es un proceso que continúa y es uno que ciertamente nosotros como oficiales electorales tenemos que participar activamente.
Cybersecurity is always one of our strong issues. We're seeing business identity fraud, much like personal identity fraud. We're seeing misuse of our databases, which need to be reliable for citizens to make good, informed decisions, because we're really about risk mitigation in the business process, to make sure that you know who you're dealing with, who you want to buy from, who you want to sell to, invest in. Those kinds of public information, basic information about corporations and LLCs, and people are abusing that for the purpose of fraud.
We're really excited about Go Code Colorado. It is an opportunity for a bunch of developers to come together over a series of weekends and develop applications that access public data. Most states, most communities have lots of data that's available publicly, but the regular public doesn't know how to access it or doesn't have it in a format that is easy to access. And so we had a competition around the state, 5 different locations, where people were able to come together and develop programs that might allow regular members of the public to access that public data. When is a good time to travel? How do I find a mentor? How do I find a good tourist location to go to? And so these are all applications that were developed by the different project teams.
Tell us the critical role of a Secretary of State helping businesses grow in their individual states.
The Secretary of State's office is usually the place where people register their business. It's where they get started in the process. And so we want to foster that. We want to make it easy for people to set up a business and learn the important things they need to know in order to be successful.
What kind of response have you seen so far?
We've seen a great response. It has won awards from both some local and some international groups, as well as the Ideas Award here at NASS. But it's been exciting as people see the opportunities that this data has in terms of being available to people.
If you want to start a business in Ohio, the first place you have to start is the Secretary of State's office. And so we wanted to make it easy for people to start businesses in our states. When I got there, it took literally 4 days on average to start a new business. You fill out a paper form, you send it through the mail. It took 4 days to process, so they sent it back. That was completely unacceptable. Now we've overhauled this. You can do it online. We guarantee 24-hour service. We've cut the price from one-day service from $225 down to $99. We have more customers, better customer service, and as a result of that, we've had a success dividend where we've been able to cut the price of starting new business in the state of Ohio. And the results are clear. Every year, we've set new records for the number of new business starts. And just 2 months ago, we set an all-time record for the number of new business starts in our state. And we're going to continue to try to make Ohio an easy place to start a business, because more businesses mean more jobs, and that's what we're all about.
I think probably the biggest thing is in the area of corporations. We really want to move to a one-stop shop where businesses in our state can come in, deal with all of the things in state government they need to do, and do it really efficiently and effectively. And I want our office to be that front line doing it. And my colleagues across the country are doing it in their states. And so we've learned some really good lessons about things we can adapt in Washington State that will make our programs better.
We're looking at putting more and more items online. The whole motto we go off of is service, participation, and integrity. And with thousands of businesses using our office as their portal to state government, we're there to service them.
What type of response have you had so far?
We've had great response. People expect things now on a much more timely basis, and if you're going to have growth, you want to make sure you're there for that opportunity.
We've actually, since I took office in 2011, we've actually been very fortunate. We've had very good success in implementing a completely new IT solution. Before I got there, there was 0% being done online, being accomplished online. We're now up to 98% being accomplished online. It's made us more accurate, more transparent, and the folks that have to use it when they register their business, file a lien, update their bylaws, whatever, have really focused on the ease of doing it. The other thing we've done is, piggybacking on that, is we've created a one-stop business portal. And currently, it used to be that if you were registering your new business, then you'd have to get out of our website and go click on the Department of Labor website for your unemployment insurance number, and then go click on the tax department. You can now do it once. You enter the information once, and it gets sent to all the organizations, the other agencies, and the job is completed in a much bigger fashion. It's gotten such good reports. We are now starting to expand it to other parts of state government as well.
To the best of my ability. To the best of my ability. So help me God.
So help me God.
That's it. Congratulations.
Do solemnly and sincerely.
Swear and affirm.
Swear and affirm.
That I will faithfully and impartially.
Faithfully and impartially.
Discharge and perform.
Discharge and perform.
All the duties incumbent upon me.
All the duties incumbent upon me.
As President.
As President.
Of the National Association of Secretaries of State.
Of the National Association of Secretaries of State.
Agreeably to its bylaws and Constitution.
Agreeably to its bylaws and Constitution.
To the best of my ability.
To the best of my ability.
Help me God.
So help me God. Thank you, God.
It works pretty well.
Thank you very much.
Even though I've been using the gumbo powder.
I understand.
We're
going to get into that in a minute.
Okay. I'm going to step aside, and it's your time coming up. Thank you.
It's going to be a hectic year in 16. First half of my, second half of my term, first half of next year, as we ramp up for the presidential election. And if there's anything of most recent history, it's going to be a doozy. Once again, so it's all eyes are upon us, and always say it's like the Super Bowl and Final Four of sports. The presidential election, you just turn out, and inevitably, and if something's going to go wrong, I always say to people, the last thing you want to do as a Secretary of State, if you have election responsibilities, have a camera in your face on election night. That usually is not to congratulate you on a great election. It is usually to explain some problem in your state. During the 5 years that I've been active in NASS, I've traveled with many of you, not only across the country, but to the Middle East with the Department of Defense to meet soldiers, and what a great soldier we had up here yesterday as our speaker. And I'm going to touch on that in a minute off script of what I was going to say regarding the program I have, Honor Vets, and many of you in the audience have similar programs. Well, let me do it now so I don't forget it. I'm going to urge each and every one of you, I know is Secretary Padilla here? Padilla, excuse me. I just shared a bunch of information with that, and if I recall, I got the concept from Iowa at this very function. And several of you have similar concepts. Natalie shared with today of something that she does on the business side that I think is fabulous, Natalie. But I'm going to urge this year that we all do some concept around honor veterans, whether it's an honor vet program, whether it's something like Natalie did, because, you know, we are a nonpartisan organization, and we try to emphasize that, and every now and then we get a little off the tracks, I understand that. But the bottom line is, I don't care if you're a Democrat, a Republican, a Libertarian, or a member of the Mickey Mouse Party, we think we can all agree that the men and women, and like that gentleman that stood before us at this platform yesterday, what allows us to enjoy an organization like this and the freedoms we have. So I think it's a great project. It's simple. I will share any and all you do is change the logo to your state. You don't have to do the pin. You can just do a certificate, or you can do something like Natalie did again, which I thought was very inventive. But let's all agree that we could at least do that. It's simple, it's non-costly issue, but it's to honor those men and women that give us the rights we have. And I think sometimes we forget that, and shame on us for those who do. I wear this lapel pin very proudly, and it goes in conjunction with what NASS is all about, the sharing of ideas. And I am astounded at how many things I have learned, or my staff have learned, or they always cringe when I come to these functions, because I come back with a notebook full of ideas. Call the Secretary of State staff in Iowa, or call the Secretary of State's office in West Virginia or in Mississippi, because they got this great concept in the area of commercial or elections that we need to do. So we share ideas repeatedly. One of those, as I just mentioned, is on my lapel pin. Iowa, if I recall, when I first got in, was one of the first states I heard that had a program to increase voter participation by honoring symbolically a veteran with your vote. And you do that at Louisiana Secretary of State. You can do a certificate for a deceased veteran. I did one for my dad and father-in-law. I gave those certificates to my mother and mother-in-law. You can send a lapel pin, and I have a bumper sticker on the back of my car. And matter of fact, I drive around in a four-door Wrangler, Jeep, and my back tire cover depicts that, and I can tell you I get more thumbs up and honks on the highways of Louisiana than ever because of that. One of the big concerns across all the states is the aging of election equipment. Those were bought with federal dollars several years ago. Most of these machines are all 15, approaching 20 years old in some areas. So certainly technology is something of importance. And the machines that are used predominantly in the states today are just not even viable, or you can't even buy them anymore. Most states like Louisiana, the manufacturer and we are cannibalizing parts to keep those going. So that's always an ongoing thing, will be a hot button in the next several years.
I am so excited that Secretary of State Tom Schedler from Louisiana will become our president this summer. Tom is a man of integrity, a man of great character, very well respected by everyone in the association, and I know for a fact that that's the case in the state of Louisiana as well. He brings to the table experience, knowledge, and he has the right personality to engage. I'm super excited as former president of NASS, going back to 2008 and 2009. I can see the value of being the head of the organization in that your state gains additional prominence, because it's your leader that is at the helm of an organization that is well respected and well regarded. I know that Tom Schedler is going to do fantastically well. He's a friend, and as a former president, a past president, I look forward to supporting his presidency.
I'm looking forward to seeing President Schedler be our new president for NASS. He's going to do a great job, and he brings that Southern charm and experience. Louisiana has some similar threads to Washington State. We have a similar primary to Louisiana's top two model, and so I have kind of a kindred spirit relationship with Secretary Schedler, and I look forward to working with him.
If people have questions like more information about this organization, what should they do?
Well, they should go online to nass.org, and they can see the different things that we do and some white papers. And then each and every state has a website that, if they have specific state concerns, we'll be able to check.